Alright, so Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 4 came out about a couple of hours ago, and here are my thoughts on it. But before I start that, the plot is this. The family discover that Rick has been using some new technology that they want to try too. And once they find out that, after they are, put to sleep mode, that, certain things aren't going exactly the way they're supposed to, that's when the episode really gets crazy. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've been ripping on Rick and Morty for the past 2 weeks, but I actually kind of like this episode.
Finally!
Yes!
Yes!
What I like about this episode is pretty much this. I really like when they go to sleep and they're like these kind of like sleepless, like zombie things. It kind of plays into a bit of horror, especially in the opening. And I actually, because once again, I don't watch promos, I was actually really engaged in the episode. Another thing I like about this episode is that the jokes are actually, working for me this time. Though there is a certain Morty joke that was funny at first, but, in classic Rick and Morty fashion, it goes on a bit longer than it needs to. But aside from that, literally all of the jokes worked for me. Also, I have another problem. This is just one problem. Once again, I wish that, this season would go back to the episode 1 plot. But before I watched this episode, I realized, you know what? Maybe it'll come back in the future, and I'm just gonna, embrace whatever episode they throw at me. And that honestly, helped my viewing experience just a bit more. And I was actually having a lot more fun with this episode than I was with the other 2 episodes. Another thing that I like about this episode is usually, Rick and Morty go on these like crazy adventures and they usually come out winning. But in this episode, the, people who turn into the sleepless zombies or whatever, they actually end up beating Rick and Morty. But the only reason that, Rick and Morty and the family end up going back to their regular selves is just because, the zombie people just decide, you know what? I don't really want to do this anymore. And then they, give the original people their actual bodies back. And that was actually something that I don't know if Rick and Morty has done before, where, usually when they go on adventures, they win. But this time they actually lose. And I actually really like that. Overall, guys, this might be my shortest Rick and Morty episode review that I've done. But I actually really enjoyed this episode. Once I realized that, maybe in the future that they'll come back to what episode 1 was trying to do. I actually had a lot more fun with the episodes, but also I did like episode 3. It was just that thing that was bothering me. The jokes, literally all of them landed except that one Morty joke, and I'd like to see Rick and Morty actually kind of lose a bit more when it comes to their adventures. And it was kind of funny that the only reason that they won was because the sleepless versions of themselves just decided, nah, we don't like doing this anymore. So overall, I really like this episode. Did you guys also like this episode? Let me know in the comments. And those are my thoughts on that.